1 minute ago, Diddy admits he made billions from Michael's death. Kanye reveals more. The courtroom was silent before Kanye West even entered. Federal agents had doubled security overnight. Rumors of a damning testimony had spread through the corridors like wildfire. Cameras were banned, phones disabled. Reporters took notes on paper like it was 1987. This wasn't just any trial. This was the trial. When Kanye took the stand, there was no fanfare, no theatrics, just a man in a black suit, unflinching. Then he said it. "I'm not here to talk about music, I'm here to talk about murder." The room froze. The accused, Sean Combs, known to the world as Diddy, known to Kanye, and allegedly to Michael Jackson by a different name, Puffy. And that name was whispered in a voicemail Kanye said changed everything. In a declaration under oath, Kanye alleged that Diddy was not only complicit, but instrumental in the death of Michael Jackson. He laid out the architecture of a hidden syndicate in the entertainment industry. Not just moguls, but manipulators. Not just stars, but pawns. According to Kanye, Michael Jackson had feared for his life. He was isolated, disarmed, surrounded by strangers, pretending to be allies. Kanye claimed the last people around Michael weren't his team, weren't his friends. They were assigned, and chief among them was Fahim Muhammad. Kanye didn't just mention Muhammad, he dismantled him. Fahim Muhammad was 23 years old when he joined Jackson's security detail in 2009, a fresh graduate from Sacramento State. No high-level training, no prior elite security detail work. Yet he was handpicked for the most high-profile assignment in the world, guarding Michael Jackson in his final weeks. Why Kanye, asked the court. Who inserts a college kid into the inner circle of a global icon days before his death? The implication was chilling. Fahim, Kanye alleged, was not a protector. He was an operative. He continued. The security cameras in Jackson's home failed the night he died. The tapes vanished. Hard drives cleared. Only one person had the access and authority to do all that. Fahim Muhammad. He wasn't placed to guard Michael, Kanye said. He was placed to control him, then clean up after. A murmur rippled through the gallery. The judge gave a stern look. Kanye remained unshaken. Then came the voicemail. According to Kanye, Michael had recorded a desperate message in a whisper. "Tell them it's Puffy. He knows. He's here." Kanye said he didn't want to believe it when he first heard it, but over the years the signs accumulated and the network became visible. He described a pattern, a cycle, artists who resisted control, artists who demanded rights, artists who tried to walk away. Prince, Whitney Houston, DMX, Lisa Lopes, Amy Winehouse, all gone, all labeled unstable, all replaced by narratives that served a corporate machine. He shifted. "It's not just about Michael," he said. "It's about how they erase us, not just from contracts, from life." Harley Pasternak, a name Kanye introduced next. His former trainer, the man who, according to Kanye, threatened him with forced psychiatric institutionalization if he didn't conform. A handler, not a helper. And Michael, Kanye, said he had his own Harley. Only difference, Kanye said, is my Harley told me he could medicate me into oblivion. Michael's Harley already had the keys. He detailed how the same networks used psychiatric threats as tools of compliance. Control through confinement. Non-compliance meant risk. Risk meant removal. The gallery sat frozen. A juror wept silently. Diddy's team scribbled furiously. Kanye turned to them. "Who's next?" he asked. Michael, then me. "Who's next?" He cited the Lil Rod lawsuit, a civil action naming Fahim Muhammad as an enforcer for Diddy, alleging intimidation, disappearances, cover-ups. "He's not a bodyguard," Kanye said. "He's the eraser." He compared the erasure of footage from Diddy's tunnel security cameras with the night Jackson died. No recordings, no logs, just silence and vanished data. He leveled the courtroom again. Michael didn't die. He was liquidated. The room exploded into gasps. The judge demanded order. Kanye did not flinch. His voice lowered. "Sony made billions off his death. That wasn't an accident. That was the cleanest business decision they ever made." The prosecution objected. The judge overruled. Reporters clutched their notepads tighter. The story wasn't about music anymore. It was about power, about silence, about who profits when the voice is gone. Court adjourned moments later, but no one moved. The air felt radioactive. As Kanye stepped off the stand, the guard held the door open. He paused, looked back. "This isn't over," he said, and it wasn't. Not even close. Day 2 began under floodlights. News vans flanked the courthouse. Protesters held signs quoting Kanye's testimony. Faces of Prince Whitney and Michael stared back from cardboard cutouts like silent witnesses demanding justice. Inside, security tripled, press passes revoked. The courtroom was no longer just a venue. It was a crucible. Kanye returned to the stand. His demeanor had shifted. No longer merely a witness, now a prosecutor in spirit. He opened by naming names. They don't just erase artists. They erase the evidence. They erase the questions. They erase the why. He cited internal Sony emails leaked to him by an anonymous insider, which discussed contingency transitions for artist catalogs. The language was sterile, corporate, but the implication was lethal. One message read, "If the subject exits contract via premature cessation, activate catalog monetization phase 3. Kanye looked at the judge. "You know what premature cessation means in this industry, dead." He introduced new evidence bank transfers $73. $6 million routed through 6 offshore accounts within 72 hours of Jackson's death. Shell companies with names like Bright Orb Holdings and Calix Continental. Beneficiaries, subsidiaries of Sony and AEG Live. He broke it down in front of the jury. Each wire transfer connected to either catalog licensing or intellectual property reallocation. It wasn't just about control, it was about conversion. From artist to asset, from voice to vault. Then came the documents from a former Jackson estate manager. Signed affidavits, clauses hidden in performance insurance contracts. One stated plainly, in the event of subject death prior to tour residual rights accelerate to holding entity. Kanye paused. Let the silence speak. The judge allowed the documents to be entered into evidence. The air thickened. Kanye pivoted. He began dissecting the psychiatric angle. He displayed a text from Harley Pasternak, dated 2 weeks before Kanye's 2022 public breakdown. "If you don't stop, I can have you institutionalized again, medicated, isolated, back to zombie land." Kanye read it aloud, slowly. Then he addressed the court directly. Michael had no one left. They pulled his team, his doctors, his security. They gave him pills, gave him doubts, then took the cameras offline. That wasn't care, that was containment. He played a clip, Jackson's own voice, shaky and private. "They're in the house, he knows. Tell them it's Puffy. Please protect the kids." The court went dead silent. A juror put a hand to their mouth. Another closed their eyes. Kanye delivered the next blow. Fahim Muhammad, he said, was the last person to access Michael's servers. He wasn't listed in payroll, but he had admin rights. Ask yourself why. He described how Fahim appeared in security logs for 3 a.m. entries, multiple occasions, doors opened remotely, footage scrubbed. The eraser didn't just work after death, he prepared the void before it. Then Kanye produced testimony from a former Sony accountant, a whistleblower, anonymous, encrypted drive, inside payout schedules tied to sudden artist incapacitation, labeled Legacy Strategy Ledger. He read aloud projected earnings post-transition Jackson 2.4B, Prince 1.9B. He slammed the folder shut. "You don't need a conspiracy theory when you've got line items." The prosecution tried to object. The judge waved them down. Kanye's eye swept the room. He wasn't done. He revealed he had been offered a buyout $60 million, just months ago, from an unnamed entity. All he had to do was stay quiet, not speak Michael's name, not mention the voicemail. "They tried to retire me into silence. Call it early exit. I call it hush money." Then came the moment. He pointed at Fahim Muhammad. Why was this man invited to speak at Wharton Business School? Why is a supposed bodyguard keynoting lectures on intelligence, logistics, and surveillance ops? Kanye paused. His voice dipped. Because he's not a bodyguard. He's an operative, with a mission. He accused the industry of rotating the same handlers through artist lives. Different names, same objectives, control, access, disposal. He ended with a single line. Michael's death wasn't the end of a career, it was the beginning of a dividend. The judge called for recess. Outside, the crowd had doubled. Chanting, cameras, choppers overhead. This wasn't just a court proceeding now. It was an eruption. Inside, Diddy sat stone still, jaw clenched, his lawyers whispered. Fahim's leg bounced under the table. And Kanye, he folded his notes, looked straight ahead. Day 3 would be worse. For them. Day 3 opened with new weight. The media frenzy outside had spiraled into full-blown upheaval. Fans, activists, former colleagues of Michael Jackson, and everyday people crowded the streets. A hashtag Dawo Who Killed the King was trending worldwide. Inside the courthouse, silence returned. The kind of silence reserved for reckoning. Kanye West walked in without a smile. No nods to press. No glance toward the gallery. He took the stand as if he'd been summoned by duty, not choice. This time, he came with backup. The first video deposition rolled on the courtroom monitors. A woman face blurred voice altered. A former artist signed under one of Diddy's sub-labels. She described a pattern of coercion. Promises of stardom that turned into surveillance. Personal conversations leaked. Threats implied. I was told I could be the next big thing, she said, but only if I obeyed. When I asked what that meant, they said, don't ask questions, don't speak out, and if you see something, you didn't. Then, the second deposition. A male R&B singer from the early 2000s. Same story, different victim. He said his home studio was bugged. One day, he received an email with a video clip, a private conversation between him and his mother. It had been recorded without consent. They never said the words blackmail, he said, but they didn't need to. Kanye sat motionless as the screen went dark. He didn't blink, didn't gloat. When asked by the judge to comment, he delivered his reply without fanfare. This isn't about bitterness. It's about a system that feeds on obedience and punishes independence. He called it the pyramid. Everyone's scared of who's at the top, he said. But the real power lies in who protects the top. Lawyers, accountants, trainers, stylists, handlers, bodyguards, each one reporting to someone else, and none of them work for the artist. He outlined a structure and ecosystem built not to nurture talent, but to extract it, repackage it, and discard the human inside it. He showed organizational charts, not official ones, but reconstructed diagrams based on flight logs, access permissions, IP traces, and wire transfers. He connected handlers across estates from Prince's to Whitney's to Michael's, different cities, different eras, same logistics, same shadows. Then he shifted back to Fahim Muhammad. Kanye produced a signed delivery log, Muhammad's name printed clearly. The date, 2 days after Michael's death. The item, 2 external drives. Destination, a private legal archive connected to a Sony affiliate. He wasn't listed as a courier, Kanye said, but he had the clearance. Ask yourself who gave it. Then he referenced a subpoenaed internal memo from Bad Boy Entertainment, labeled Client Stability Protocol. Kanye read it aloud. Identify threats to artist compliance, initiate corrective intervention, neutralize peripheral disruptors, control external narrative. He stopped, looked at the jury. That's not support, that's suppression. He called his next witness, not a person, a document. The court projector displayed a redacted spreadsheet titled Transition Event Projections, dated a week before Jackson's death. Columns for insurance coverage, asset reallocation timelines, public relations contingency plans. Kanye zeroed in on one cell. Projected stream revenue week 1 post-event, $92 million. He said nothing for a full 15 seconds. Then, that's not mourning. That's monetizing. The prosecution scrambled. They motioned to strike the document from the record. The judge denied it. The air shifted. Then came the bombshell. Kanye revealed a third-party investigative report commissioned by a former Jackson staffer. The report documented unauthorized security badge activity at Michael's Holmby Hills residence the night before he died. 3 individuals entered restricted areas. None were on official logs. One wore a badge registered to an inactive contractor. The footage erased, the logs corrupted, the server removed the next morning by Fahim Muhammad. Kanye let that hang. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He let the facts suffocate the room. A juror wiped their glasses. The judge ordered an evidentiary review. But Kanye wasn't done. He spoke of conversations he'd had, offers he'd received, not just money, silence packages, threats of defamation campaigns, mental health discrediting. They told me, "You saw what happened to Michael. You want to make it to the next stage, stay in line." He mentioned surveillance, hotel rooms bugged, emails deleted from the server, credit accounts frozen, texts from numbers that didn't exist, a digital ghosting campaign. Then he quoted a message he received from someone inside a major streaming platform. "Your numbers don't matter. What matters is how manageable you are." He let that sentence echo. "You're not chosen because you're talented," he said. "You're chosen because you're useful. Until you're not." The courtroom sat paralyzed. Fahim stared at the table. Diddy whispered to his attorney, and Kanye just sat back. Michael knew. He said it. He said Puffy was there. He said, "Protect the kids." He said it, and still, we let them erase him. He didn't ask the court to believe him. He asked them to look. Day 4 didn't begin in the courtroom. It began on the steps outside. Fans, artists, activists, hundreds of them stood shoulder to shoulder under cloudy skies, holding signs that read, "Justice for Michael. Truth needs no mic," and they tried to silence him. A candlelight vigil burned through dawn. A slow chant moved through the crowd. He said, "Puffy." He said, "Puffy." He said, "Puffy." Inside, the atmosphere was altered. Not just tense, charged. The judge entered with steel in her voice. She declared that portions of the court would be sealed moving forward due to emerging federal interest. She said plainly, "This is now a matter of national concern." Kanye sat down without a word. His counsel slid forward a folder. In it, a sworn statement from Jermaine Jackson. The brother of Michael Jackson had stepped forward, on camera, under oath. He told us, Jermaine said, "Michael told us he was being watched. He told us there were people around him he didn't choose. He begged us to take the kids and go. But we didn't understand how serious it was." His voice cracked. "We thought it was paranoia. Now we know it was prophecy." Then came a statement from LaToya Jackson read by her attorney. Michael didn't die from drugs. He died from control. He was a commodity. And when he tried to become a man again instead of a brand, they removed him. The judge asked for calm as murmurs rose from the gallery. Then came a handwritten letter from Paris Jackson, delivered through legal proxy. A daughter's grief made real in ink. I remember him whispering. I remember the fear. I remember waking up and seeing him crying. I remember hearing the voice on that voicemail. It was real. It's always been real. When it was read aloud, the room stopped breathing. Kanye didn't interrupt. He let the Jackson family reclaim the floor. Then he returned. He introduced a new exhibit, a series of emails from an anonymous source inside AEG Live, dated 10 days before Jackson's death. One message stood out. He doesn't need to survive the tour. Just opening night. The gallery gasped. The defense team stood. The judge raised her hand. "Sit down," she said. "This court will hear it." Kanye now moved with calm precision. No anger. Just fire. He unveiled a memo titled Asset Reclamation Framework, an internal policy document from a major entertainment conglomerate. It outlined the procedural steps in the event of an artist's sudden death. It included terms like media repositioning, asset protection seizure, and post-event catalog maximization. The document stated that triggering the policy would require authentication of terminal outcome, a euphemism for death. Then Kanye called for a forensic accountant. The witness, previously anonymous, took the stand under oath. They confirmed the transfer of over $70 million in Jackson-related catalog rights within 3 days of his passing. Shell companies were used to fragment ownership, making recovery nearly impossible. Someone had the mechanism ready, the accountant said, and they deployed it instantly, before the autopsy was even filed. The jury sat motionless. Kanye turned back to the video projector. On-screen, unreleased security footage leaked by a former Jackson staffer. It showed 2 unidentified men entering the private quarters of the Holmby Hills residence the night before Jackson's death. No faces, just movements, just shadows. One of them used a key code, a code only 5 people knew. Fahim Muhammad was one of them. There was no timestamp on the footage, but the footage itself had been stored on a backup hard drive that had vanished from official inventory. The source former Neverland Systems technician. Under subpoena, he testified remotely that he'd been asked to wipe servers after Michael's death. But something told him to copy one drive, just in case. This is that case, he said. Court paused. The judge ordered a federal review panel to begin immediate chain of custody verification. When court resumed, Kanye dropped his voice to a near whisper. They told me silence is safer. That being a martyr is only noble when it's posthumous, that no one listens until the eulogy. He leaned forward. Well, I'm still breathing. And I'm still speaking. Then came the financial bomb. He revealed a string of contracts from posthumous estate managers. One line stood out on all of them: ensure maximum media sympathy prior to catalog relaunch. He stared directly at the legal teams. You don't invest in artists anymore. You invest in their deaths, because that's when the ROI peaks. The judge did not interrupt. Then came a taped message from Quincy Jones. Michael wasn't paranoid. He was informed, and no one believed him because they didn't want to lose the money. Kanye closed his eyes as it played. When it ended, he spoke simply. You don't have to believe me. Just follow the paper trail. Because money never lies. People do. The courtroom was recessed again, but something had changed. Outside, federal vehicles had begun arriving. Inside, subpoenas were being prepared, and for the first time, Diddy's legal team asked for an adjournment. The judge refused. We finish what we started. By day 5, the courthouse was no longer the epicenter. It was the eye of a cultural hurricane. Cable news aired continuous coverage. Hashtags now trended not by the hour but by the minute. Lawmakers began issuing statements. A special oversight subcommittee convened overnight. Industry stocks, Sony, AEG, even Live Nation had dropped nearly 10%. Inside the courtroom, the judge arrived 20 minutes early. Her voice rang with finality. We are not here to entertain conspiracy. We are here to determine if silence was purchased and if lives were the currency. Kanye stood again. This time he didn't bring documents. He brought chronology, a timeline, projected on the wall day by day, hour by hour, the final 12 months of Michael Jackson's life. Every contract signed, every tour meeting, every shift in medical care, every removed security protocol. Kanye narrated it like a post-mortem confession. June 2008, Michael audits Sony's royalty statements, sends letter requesting catalog breakdown, never gets a reply. August, Michael expresses fear for his safety to 2 family members, hires private investigator. PI is suddenly dropped weeks later. No explanation. October, Fahim Muhammad joined security team. No resume on file, only a reference. That reference, AEG executive. March 2009. This is it, tour contract signed. Pressured into 50 shows. Michael wanted 10. Medical staff begins rotation. April, Michael's longtime attorney suddenly replaced. May, Jackson requests surveillance sweep of his residence. Sweep canceled by house manager. Later found to be working with tour insurer. June 21st, Michael makes final recorded phone call to family friend. Quote, if I don't make it to London, they win. June 24th, Michael requests final will revision. Meeting canceled, never rescheduled. June 25th, Michael Jackson dies. The room held still, each date a nail, each quote a hammer. Then Kanye offered a closing summary. He explained the post-death sequence. Within 6 hours of Jackson's death, estate assets were frozen. Hard drive seized. Estate control shifted to temporary trustees. Music rights transferred to Sony-controlled holding. By dawn, his catalog was collateral. He called it not an event, but an operation. This wasn't just a death. It was a timed liquidation. Then he turned his attention to another piece of evidence. A deposition from a senior financial officer at a global publishing firm. The officer, granted anonymity, described how death clause policies were routinely activated for aging or volatile artists. Think of it like a portfolio hedge, the officer said. You can't insure the artist, but you can monetize the aftermath. Kanye's voice sharpened. This is not a theory. It's a business model. Then came the personal blow. He revealed his own NDA agreement sent weeks after he first referenced Michael's voicemail in public. He projected it on the screen. A clause offered him a seven-figure consulting retainer in exchange for non-disclosure of disputed claims involving deceased intellectual property. He refused to sign. Instead, he brought it to court. Then the courtroom lights dimmed for a final clip. Previously unreleased footage. Michael Jackson in rehearsal for This Is It. He looks tired, focused, distant. He finishes a set. Then says off mic, barely audible, "They're gonna use me. Then they're gonna blame me." The screen goes black. Kanye stands still. They used him. Then they erased him. Then they profited off him. And when I spoke out, they tried the same to me. He paused, then continued, "I'm not saying this because I want to be heard. I'm saying it because Michael was silenced. And I won't let that be the end of the story." He stepped back. The judge didn't dismiss the court. She sat silent for nearly 30 seconds, then finally said, "We'll break for lunch." But no one left. Reporters began typing. Phones buzzed across the gallery. Outside, the crowd was larger than ever. Inside, one of the jurors asked the court clerk for tissues. Kanye didn't return to his seat. He stayed at the front of the courtroom, eyes forward, waiting for the reckoning to finish what it started. Day 6 didn't begin. It detonated. Before the gavel hit the bench, subpoenas had landed. Federal agents escorted 3 Sony executives into a secured wing of the courthouse. Rumors swirled about encrypted communications, deleted email chains, and dormant shell companies suddenly waking up. Inside the courtroom was packed. Kanye West returned to the stand for what would be his final testimony. He carried nothing. No notes, no binders, no folder, just memory and resolve. The judge gave him the floor. Kanye started with a question. What if Michael didn't just die, he asked. What if he was made to disappear? Then he laid out the final timeline, not of Michael's last year, of the aftermath. July 2009. Michael Jackson's streaming numbers surged 220% within 48 hours. August. His estate signs a new licensing agreement valued at over $250 million. October. Sony consolidates 50% of his catalog under ATV joint ownership. December tax filings indicate more posthumous revenue than the last 5 years of his life combined. February 2010, AEG reports a tour completion benefit payout despite no tour occurring. Kanye didn't raise his voice. He didn't flinch. It wasn't a tragedy. It was a transaction. Then he referenced something never before shown publicly. A corporate deck titled Post-Loss Value Strategies. 1 slide. 5 words. Death is the cleanest reset. The room gasped. He gave them no room to recover. He explained how asset insurance licensing, renegotiations, and emotion-fueled streaming booms were not unfortunate byproducts. They were forecasts. Forecasts investors planned for. Then came the names. He listed artists who had once tried to regain ownership of their work. Prince, Whitney, Amy, Lisa, DMX, Chester, Dolores, Avicii, Chris, all labeled erratic before they died, all mourned after. He revealed internal memos from 3 major entertainment entities citing behavioral unpredictability as justification for review of estate readiness protocols. He showed the jury a calendar titled Q4 Opportunity Events. One item projected legacy content surge Whitney Houston reissues, dated 1 week before her death. Kanye turned to the defense. You want to call this paranoia, call it profit tracking, call it corporate crime scene cleanup. Then came the final blow. He produced a voice message from Michael. The original recording, not transcribed, not quoted, played. Michael Jackson's voice filled the courtroom. They know. They're listening. Fahim is not mine. I didn't choose him. They put him here. Tell them it's Puffy. He knows. He's here. Please protect the kids. When the recording ended, no one moved. No one breathed. The judge asked the court reporter to enter the audio log into official record. Kanye stepped down, then the unexpected. 2 men rose from the gallery, former security contractors, one from Jackson's Neverland team, one from Prince's final tour. They requested to testify under oath. Both confirmed identical patterns, abrupt security staff changes, surveillance erasures, new advisors suddenly embedded in routines, family restricted, doctors replaced. They ghost you while you're alive, one said, so they don't have to when you're gone. The judge ordered them to submit formal affidavits. Then she did something no one expected. She turned to the jury and asked, "Would you like to deliberate today?" A unanimous nod. The jury retired just before noon. They returned in 2 hours. Their statement was brief. This court finds that sufficient credible evidence has been presented to support a referral for federal criminal investigation into the death of Michael Jackson, including obstruction, witness tampering, and possible corporate collusion. Gasps, cries, silence. The judge addressed the court. This is not a conviction. This is not an exoneration. This is the beginning. Then she turned to Kanye. You did not come here as a victim. You stood here as a witness, and in doing so, you've altered what we thought we knew. She recessed the court, but the impact had already breached the walls. News networks interrupted programming. Congressional hearings were called. Shareholder meetings were canceled. Record label boardrooms flooded with lawyers. Outside, the crowd erupted, not in celebration, but in realization that maybe truth could survive the machine. Kanye exited through the front steps. He did not speak. He did not raise his hand, but as he walked through the crowd, someone started a chant. He said, "Puffy." He said, "Puffy." He said, "Puffy." This time no one interrupted.